everything made sense to you. When you hear about this the very first time, you think it's insane, and you should think it's insane. It's against everything that you ever heard. But then you start educating yourself and you start learning more and more details about why you do what you do. That's the problem. Doctors are not used to seeing improvements in people. But once when they come back 3-4 months later with 2 points lower A1C, with stable glucose, with lower inflammation, 40 pounds lighter, more muscle, they look in the face better, they feel better. Well, the doctor just looks at the blood work and say, okay, just keep doing what you're doing. And I get most of the GPs on board with their patients after they see the results. Okay, it's probably not that bad. I'm saving money by not drinking, not taking drugs, and not smoking. I'm not saving money on food.
Morning. We have Daniel with us today. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm very excited and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, last time we tried to do this, I think there were some technical issues. I can't remember what it was. We couldn't use the recording. So anyway, thanks for being willing to do this again. Now, for those that aren't maybe forgotten or aren't familiar with you, can you remind us a little bit about your background, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. So I've been training people in person for the past 10 years as a personal trainer, and then I transitioned more to online coaching. And I started using Carnivore Diet and the H3 system for all of my clients, pretty much. I have been achieving amazing success with all of my clients losing weight and gaining muscle. And it was a game changer for me because before I was using typical bodybuilding protocols for the fat loss, for the muscle building, and just for general health. However, I found a lot of people not to be that successful at it because using 6-7 small meals a day with some rice and veggies and lean chicken breast is hard to make people do. It's just hard to make people do. Sometimes you really just need an athlete who's going to commit his life to it and that is actually going to be able to stick to it. So I slowly transitioned more to carnivore lifestyle and fasting. First, I had to educate myself on it because just like everybody else, I thought it's absolutely insane diet and it's not healthy. And what about cholesterol and all that? So I needed about 4 or 5 years of education for myself about carnivore diet and reading the books and reading the studies and watching, of course, your progress and progress of the people who follow you. So I collected the data from all around the world and I made a great understanding for myself of what the carnivore is. And I started applying that into my clients' lifestyle and that they've been achieving phenomenal results.
Yeah, I think it's important because the typical bodybuilder diet, the lean, skinless chicken breast with broccoli or some sort of fibrous vegetable, is really tough for most people to do. And you have to have this, for many people, you have to have this extreme level of dedication. That's why bodybuilders that are, committed to the lifestyle, where the average person may like that, I can't do that. That's just too difficult for me to do. And they don't have the burning drive to compete. And this gives them something that I think is much more accessible and easier to do and probably more enjoyable for most of us. Let me ask you, because a lot of people will say, I need the bodybuilding diet to get in that really good condition. I couldn't do that on say for a carnivore diet. And yet I've seen people that have done that. Are most of the people you're dealing with now just people that are trying to lose weight, average people, or are you doing a lot of competitive people that are trying to get down to that contest stage ready level of body composition?
Very few people are trying to get on stage, and 99.8% of the people who are just normal people who are trying to get healthier, lose weight, build muscle, tighten up. So you do not need the carbohydrates and the fiber and vegetables and all that to get in a contest ready shape. It's really just about staying enough in a calorie deficit and keeping as much muscle mass as possible while you're burning fat. So you can get shredded. Really, I've seen any diets. Like I've seen all kinds of diets getting people shredded. Some diets burn more muscle mass. Some diets make you more miserable. Some diets are much harder on commitment. Some diets are healthier and some diets are less healthy. Some diets wreck your metabolism. Some diets maintain. It's really all about the approach. But ultimately, you can really get shredded by any diet. And carnivore, I found most success with. There was the most successful diet of getting shredded and getting lean and maintaining people at a lean and healthy body weight. I see the best blood works on carnivore diet I ever seen. People's triglycerides drop. People's HDL, along with the proper exercise, raises. The triglycerides to HDL ratio is on average 1 to 1. Sometimes the triglycerides are even lower than HDL. which is a really good sign. Their CRPs are dropping. Now, oftentimes below 1 milligram. I see my wife who has a Crohn's disease, autoimmune disease. Her Crohn's was really acting up when she was eating a lot of processed foods. And once when we eliminated all the processed foods, including just simple carbohydrates, like I'm talking like rice, potatoes, pasta and stuff like that. I'm not talking about the worst stuff in the planet, like processed sugar, Snickers, Twix bars, and all that. I'm just talking about normal carbohydrates. When she had those in the diet, she would get her Crohn flare-ups once in a while, which means that she would be just vomiting in pain for 3 days. And diarrhea, blood, it is very miserable to see the loved one going through that. But we eliminated all the carbohydrates and she hasn't had a flare up for 3 years. She's down to like 108 pounds, shredded to the bone with veins on her stomach. And CRP is below 1 milligram. Her CRP is actually 0.5, which I think is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that alone, the impact that I've seen this have on inflammatory bowel disease has really been incredible. Crohn's disease, also colitis. Routinely, we see people become asymptomatic, get off their medications, their inflammatory markers bottom out to nothing. They get their life back. So it's really been really neat with that regard. How did you, Lord, decide this was right for you? As you said, you've been studying it for 4 or 5 years. When did you make the decision that I'm going to do this personally?
When you learn enough that just everything makes sense to you. When you hear about this the very first time, I've heard you mention it at some podcasts before, like you think it's insane, and you should think it's insane. Yes, that's right. Because it's against everything that you ever heard. But then you start educating yourself and you start learning more and more details about why you do what you do. And you dig into evolution of human organism all the way back to the Homo habilis through all the evolution to the Homo sapiens and how our brain evolved when we start eating more saturated fat and hunting animals. And you put puzzle to puzzle and then you get the full picture. So most of the people who don't understand carnivore, they just don't have all the puzzles together. That you need to create a certain understanding for yourself why we do what we do, why the protein and fat is actually essential and carbohydrate is not essential at all. Then you learn about gluconeogenesis in your liver and you understand it. Okay, I can produce my own sugar. I can create my own sugar. I didn't know that before. Now I do know. So I have an argument when people tell me, oh, but you need sugar to live. The glucose is essential. Yes, of course, but the consumption of glucose is not. How do I know? First of all, the process in the liver is there. Second of all, I would be dead. That's how simple it is.
Yeah, I think let me just emphasize that point. People say that you have to have this or you will die or it's essential. And you're like, well, then I should be dead or my brain should stop functioning. And I've been effectively, it's almost zero carbohydrates in 7 years. And I'm still here, still doing podcasts, still working out, still functioning well, still living a quality, healthy life. And if those things were true, then I and people like you, thousands of other people should not exist. So clearly they've got it wrong. So clearly when you have absolute proof standing in front of you, at some point you have to say, well, maybe our assumptions were wrong, but people still stick to this stuff. You must be a ghost or a genetic outlier or you're lying or something like that. It's what we hear all the time. And I can tell you, from my own perspective, I know what I've been doing for the last period of time. Well, I wanted to, because we interviewed a guy named Hal Kramer a while back, runs a nursing home. And apparently you have taken on some of his clients. He's mentioned you, and one in particular, a gal that's lost, I think, in excess of 200 pounds.
214.
Yeah, something like it. Can you talk a little bit how you got involved in her journey and that sort of stuff? Because it's really incredible. It's 6 months too. It's not that long. It's like 200 pounds in 6 months, that's amazing. That's really is. So let's talk a little bit about that involvement.
Hal messaged me through our mutual interest in the H3 bar that we use for the exercise because he uses this exercise system and he saw me that I coach with this system. He messaged me. He said, hey, I run these assisted living home facilities and I need someone who's going to run nutrition programs for my bariatric patients. I'm like, sure, that's not a problem. For those people who don't know what bariatric means, those are people with morbid obesity, like 400 or 500 pounds plus. So there was this client, Julie, who started at 548 with me, but she was at 700 before by herself. So she got down to 548. Then we put her on the nutrition plan. And in October, so that's 6 months ago, and now she's down to 334. which is just an incredible progress. And I have to mention, she was unable to do anything for 3 months because she got ridiculously sick. Her meds got mixed up. A lot of doctors had to jump on board or figure out what's going on to finally get her back on track. She was unable to digest a lot of stuff. So there was a lot of things that were going on along the process where she was unable to follow the program. We lost her for a bit until she was gone for the treatments. And then she came back and jumped back on a diet and started losing super quickly again. So thank God everything was resolved. I just wanted to mention that she couldn't even commit herself for the full 6 months to diet and do things right. She would be down probably 270 by now if we didn't lose that time or she had to go figure some things out. So now she's back on track, continue, and we're shooting for over 300 pounds in her first year. Now that is something because I've been coaching. I personally coached over 1,000 people with all kinds of goals, disease, many different situations, but I've never seen anybody get nearly close to the 300 pounds in their first year. That's just absolutely incredible. And we're hoping that she can spread the word then and help other bariatric patients to get on their feet. And we want to make her like the role model for everybody else, because honestly, with that much weight loss, you can publish a book, you can talk to those people, you can make a marketing around it, you can coach and train those people because they will trust you more because you've been there. And we're hoping to get her down to about 180, 190. We don't have a certain time frame when we want to do it, but about 180, 190, we'll start cutting the skin off and start doing the surgeries. And we expect to drop about 40 to 50 pounds of skin.
Yeah, that's unfortunately a true aspect of these super morbid people when they lose, if they lose weight, and few do, but some do. They do have to deal with this excess skin that unfortunately there's no real way around that. And how old is she, just out of curiosity? Do you know how old she is about?
In her 40s.
She's in her 40s. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good to have that sort of resilience, because 40 at 500 pounds is a lot older than a normal 40-year-old be. You've got a lot of just stress on the body that's been accumulating for probably several decades now. Let me talk a little bit about the X3 bar. I've interviewed John Jakish several times. I know him. He's a friend of mine. I've got one. I used it yesterday, in fact, to do some biceps curls. I use it. I interject it among other workouts. But how have you used that with your clients, yourself? Why do you choose that piece of equipment?
When I was training people with bodybuilding protocols, things were okay, but the same thing as with the carnivore diet. I just educated myself on why X3 is better and why does it overload body differently. Like, you need to go through the education of, okay, I am using much lighter resistance at the bottom and I'm using a lot heavier resistance at the top of a chest press. Why is it happening? Why is it beneficial? Why is it protecting joints, tendons, ligaments? And why is it protecting you from the inflammation in your joints? So I had to, again, start all over again and start understanding biomechanics of the body, just as I was understanding the nutrition. Now, once when I understood it, I was living in Bali at that time. It was right before the COVID happened, and I was living at the abandoned island. And I'm like, okay, I heard of this X3 bar, and I'm a kind of a person that always takes his time to research things. Like, I heard about Carnivore Diet in 2016, and I didn't jump on board until 2020. So same thing with the X3. I heard of X3 in 2016 at the very beginnings when the first protocol came out, and I didn't jump on board until 2020. So I kind of executed both of these programs together. And I came back to the United States and all the gyms were closed. I'm like, okay, I have no other option than start training with the X3. So I started, and I started getting great results in such a short period of time. So I started implementing X3 into my coaching protocol, and my clients started progressing faster and better because they were actually working out. So I haven't had stories anymore where, oh, Daniel, I couldn't get to the gym this week because my wife was out of town. I had to stay with kids. So regular life didn't interrupt my clients anymore or didn't prevent them from working out. So now they train every day. Now they stick to the program. We can do progressive overload. We can do other protocols that help them put on muscle. And then I'm simplified the diet as well. Okay, you got these couple ingredients. It's steak and eggs, and we got some raw dairy for the people who can digest lactose. For those who can't, they stay away from it. You can have a little bit of bacon. I combine it with some intermittent fasting, and I published a book about the splits between the high and low calorie days. Certain days we eat more calories, certain days we eat less calories, just to prevent the plateau. And this has been very efficient. And I simply just researched enough things where I put together this program that I currently have today that is really working on autopilot. And I don't even care for new information about it anymore. Like I created a certain program that has the highest success rate that I was ever able to accomplish. And my job as a coach is to design a program that I can get the most people successful with. That's really the only thing I care about. And this program is successful at 90% of the people. 10% of the people will be those who sign up for the program at the wrong time of their life. You know, something happens 1 month later, 2 months later, they go through a divorce or something. But usually everybody who commits gets amazing results. So I don't even care about new research. I don't even care about people telling me, oh, and what about the fiber? What about this and that? I don't even care about it. I got a program that I don't want to interrupt anymore because it took me 10 years to figure out how I can help people most efficiently.
Yeah, I think one of the things is the simplicity of it, because obviously the diet is extremely simple, or can be. And then that X3 bar, like I said, you've got a simple way to train all the major muscle groups as far as most people would be concerned, in a way that's just easily scalable, and you can make it as hard or as not hard as possible as you want. What I found is when you do it as you're supposed to, it's a very challenging workout. It can be very stressful on the muscles themselves. And like I said, a lot of people having to, like for instance, when I do deadlifts with the elite band, that's 600 pounds tension at the top. That's more convenient than lugging 600 pounds in your suitcase. You can't do that. So you can bring that. Like I'm going out of the country on Saturday. I'll be in Portugal for a week, and I'll bring that with me. So I have a way to continue to train while I'm there, because a lot of times I go on vacation. I often lose weight on vacation because I just haven't worked out enough. So usually some muscle mass, and it usually bums me out. So try to minimize that stuff while I'm there. So it's an easy kind of workout. When you're utilizing diet with your clients, are you focused on protein at all? Is there a protein target that you try to get people to hit, or how? And maybe describe, you mentioned some days are high calories, some days are lower calories. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Certainly. So I think that's one of the most important things about my program. It sounds simple when I say, but it's honestly like hundreds of clients later and years of coaching later where I found out, okay, this is an issue. Usually, so when I set a meal plan for the people a certain way, I don't shoot for a certain amount of protein, because you always do more than enough protein on carnivore. The fats, then it's an energy, so I custom that to the body weight, to the height, and to the gender. And I usually hit the calories with the high and low days like 99% of the time. Rarely I have to adjust it right in the beginning. So what I do, I put people at the active metabolic rate consumption. So if a person burns 3,000 calories a day, I make him eat 3,000 calories a day from carnivore foods 3 days a week. And then 4 days a week, I'll put them in a deficit, but it's going to be a heavy deficit. It's a really heavy deficit, like 1,000 calories, 900 calories, 1,000, maybe bigger man, 1,200 calories. So this is their fat loss day. And let's say I get a man 250. If a man is 250, I'll put him on this plan. I can get him pretty quickly without any plateau down to about 230 with 3 high, 4 lows. Then at 230, he's going to plateau a little bit. He's going to slow down. So at 230, I'll switch it up. 5 low, 2 high. So now he's going Monday through Friday, calorie deficit, and then Saturday, Sunday, he'll blast 3,000 calories. So he gets to eat. Now, that will probably get him to about 205, 210, but he wants to be 185. How do we get there? And honestly, my program is unique because I deliver results quickly. Like, I am not really for the long fat burns. I get the job done quickly. So what we do, when he hits another plateau with a 5 low, 2 high, I'll put him on a 48-hour fast. 1 day a week, there's a 48-hour fast. Let's say Monday, there's no food whatsoever. They just drink water, maybe a little bit of coffee, even though it's not carnivore, but some people just want to keep it in. Tuesday through Friday, they'll do 1 meal a day at the calorie deficit again. And Saturday, Sunday, always blast calories. So 2 high calorie days are a must in a week. If you start crossing that, you'll hit a plateau where you hit 215 and nothing is happening. You're literally like you're 7 days a week in a deficit. Body literally just finds homeostasis there. It finds its balance. It will try to live off of very little calories. It will try to slow down BMR even further by changing its composition, meaning blowing the muscle. And you will stop losing weight. Eventually you lose a little bit, but you look worse. That means that you lost the muscle. So and I've seen that so many times. This is all practical experience. And I was in a position where I had to figure it out. I'm like, okay, my people are plateauing and I can't figure it out. And it usually happens with the bodybuilding protocols where I already had people doing 2 hours of cardio a day, 6 workouts a week, deficit at freaking 1,200 calories 7 days a week, and people didn't lose weight. And they're still 25 kgs, like 50, 60 pounds away from where they want to be. So what do you do then? Something is not working. Like they should be still dropping 2-3 pounds a week. That's usually the pace where I have my clients. Also depends if it's a male or female. Male tends to lose weight a little bit faster. So when they're at 48-hour fast once a week, 4 low days and 2 high days on a weekend, they drop from that 215 down to 185 pretty quickly. But now you're at 185 with a hypersensitive body. Just by you eating every single day, 1 meal a day, you raise the calories up to maintenance 3,000, you'll probably gain about 5 to 7 pounds. So it is very important to understand you can never maintain your lowest low. If you want to maintain 185, you have to drop down to about 180, 178, because every single body after the weight loss is hypersensitive to calories. Not only to carbs or sugars and stuff. Of course, those will blow you up 40 pounds if you go bananas. But I'm talking about coming from a deficit, fasting, so you have to be very smart about it. You have to add the calories back slowly. So first, you just eliminate the 48-hour fast. You eat every day. Then you increase the calories on a daily basis until you get up to a active metabolic rate. And then you just pretty much eat your regular carnivore food 7 days a week. And then eventually you can just go literally eating by feeling. However you feel, when you're hungry, you start eating. And that's when the body will take care of itself and it will plateau somewhere around 190, 192 when you lost down to 185. So there's a certain protocol I have. And like I said, you can take a longer path too and just don't worry about nothing. Don't calculate anything. Don't split anything to high and low days and just eat carnivore food by appetite and see where it takes you. But I guarantee I've done it. It's slower. So the only unique plan, like the really unique plan that I have in my hands is the quick results. And I can guide you through the quick results very efficiently without the rebound effect. But also there's multiple other ways that you can take.
Let me ask you, because on the days that you're restricting the calories, you said as low as maybe 1,200 calories, which is quite aggressive. Are you focusing on getting enough protein during those days so we're not losing lean mass, or how does that work? Do you start minimum amount of protein per day and then add whatever fat beyond that, or how do you deal with protein amounts?
So protein is always 1 gram per pound, even on low days. When you think about it, you can easily get 2 to 50 grams of protein. And also, if you can't get it all from food, we use essential amino acids. Another product from J-Crush Biomedical, Fortigen. So we just drink essential amino acids to substitute for the missing protein. So protein is really not a problem. It's just really getting at least quarter to half of your body weight of fats. And then you just let the body eat itself. If you're 100 pounds overweight or 50 pounds overweight, you're still storing dinner from 2017. So that's food. That's actually energy. Your body will be fine. You're not going to fade away. You're going to feel a little hungry, yes, but also you're going to get results very quickly, which most people tend to like.
Do you, obviously you're using an X3 bar as some of the workout component. Do you change the workouts on the low versus high days? Or the high days more aggressive workouts, or how does that work?
That's a great question. No. We do progressive overload. So every single workout, you need to pass your previous performance. You need to exercise more than you did last time. Let's say you do chest press with the elite man and you do 15 reps on Monday. The next time you do chest press again, you have to do 16. And if you didn't get 16, you haven't rested enough. So you need more days off. We just made a podcast about it with Dr. John Jaquish. To clarify this, because pretty much the only reason why you want to work out is always introduce your body to the new level of stress. So when the body is facing new level of stress, it is adapting and it's growing the muscle. And since we're getting proper amount of protein and we're substituting with the essential amino acids, it seems like it doesn't really matter if it's a high or low day. It doesn't really matter. Like I perform better fasted than after food, to be honest. Like when I have no food in my system, I put better numbers on my board than versus when I ate tons of food and 2,000-3,000 calories or so. Honestly, that's how you achieve very good fat burn. I then split it between the low days that you train less or smaller muscle groups on the low days and high and bigger muscle groups on the high days. It is pretty much upper and lower body, which is followed upper body one day, lower body next day. And if you cannot beat your previous maximum, you take a day off. And the funny thing is, people who get bigger and stronger, which happens pretty quickly, need to take more days off. The bigger and stronger people are, the more they need to rest. And I'm down to just a couple workouts a week because for me, just to look at that board and seeing that, okay, I've done 14 deadlifts with SS7 and the X3 great band combined together, I have no idea how I didn't do 15.
You mentioned they start out their 250, you're getting them 3,000 calories a day, or whatever their basic metabolic rate is, or their total requirements rather. And then they've dropped 50 pounds. Now they're at 205, 200, and they got another 20 pounds to go. When they go back to the high day, they're still going all the way up to 3,000, or does that come down a little bit too?
It's very individual. So ideally, we want to get up to 3,000, but we watch the body. We watch what happens. And usually what I do is I switch the ratio of high and low days. So the calories don't change, but now we go from 5 low days to high days to 5 high days into low days. So majority of the week, now you're consuming more calories and you still keep 2 low days just to keep that sensitivity under control. So you don't blow up from 200 to 208 or 210, but you go from 200 to 202. And you keep that body like that for about 1 or 2 weeks. The body will adjust. It will calm down. It's literally like a hot furnace. It's hot furnace. It's been blowing, burning calories like crazy. It's very sensitive and wants to regain everything that it's lost. Because from the survival perspective, weight loss really doesn't make sense at all. So the body's trying to protect its own stored fat that it's been storing for so long. And it wants to regain it back as quickly as possible, especially after the weight loss occurred. So I switched the ratio to 5 high days and 2 low days, and I keep people there for about 2 weeks. And then we watch what happens. All right. You're up 2 pounds. Perfect. Let's go up to 6 days. 6 high days, 1 low day. All right. You're still at 202. All right. Full 7 days. Here we go. Full 7 days of high days it is.
Because you mentioned the X3 bar. Is there any sort of, any cardiovascular stuff, walking or anything like that's included that you have people do minimize? I often find just telling people stop being sedentary, get them up out of the couch, go for a walk. Is that part of that? Does that feature there?
Love it. Yes, absolutely. Movement is very important. I am a big fan of martial arts. I know you are as well. I know you do jiu-jitsu. I do jiu-jitsu and MMA as well. I think it does a lot to the man's mental health and confidence levels. So I also encourage all of my clients to do some form of martial art, or if they don't do any martial arts, just simple boxing into the bag. That will really help you. Usually when you punch things, you drop stress. Like a lot of people who I deal with are busy or having hectic daily situations happening in life. Sometimes you just got to put those gloves on and punch something to feel better. And it really makes you feel better. Plus you get the great HIIT cardio in. People who don't have access to punching bags or live in apartment buildings, they just do the HIIT cardio on stationary bicycles or the jump rope. Even jump rope is okay. So yes, I do incorporate a lot of movement, and I incorporate HIIT cardio along with the X3. Walking is awesome, as much walk as you can get, but we generally don't recommend doing steady cardio in our programs. We recommend HIIT cardio, which means that you sprint for a certain amount of time. Sprinting means that you're putting a maximum output of energy in a short burst. Not that you're running, because most of my clients cannot run and I don't recommend them run. Why they cannot? Because they're overweight. They weigh 280, 290. You can't really pry those joints and those knees with that body weight. It's not fair to those knees. So I just recommend them do short bursts on a bicycle when there's no impact on the knees, so they don't inflame the knees, and give it all. Give it your all. And usually when you do this right, you cannot sprint longer than 15 seconds. If you're sprinting for 30, 45 seconds, you're certainly not giving it all. Mm-hmm. Certainly not.
Yeah.
And then you get off the bike, and then you stand around the bike, you listen to music, you text a couple of clients back, you catch your breath, and then you do it again. We usually do it for 30 minutes.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and it's an important concept when we do high intensity interval training. The key is the high intensity part, and if you're doing these longer sprints, your intensity always drops off, and particularly if the rest period is not adequate, the next round of intensity, the intensity is going to be inadequate as well. So I always like short sprints with 5-to-1 rest to recovery, something like that. It's long enough where you can truly hit it hard the second and third and fourth and fifth rep, or how many reps you're going to do in that period of time. On your high calorie days, you'd mentioned keeping the protein about 1 gram per pound. So 200-pound guys eating 200 grams a day. Are they eating more fat on those days, or are they just eating more of everything? Does it matter? Do you say, look, okay, we want you to go from sometimes I'll go from leaner cuts, sirloins and things like that, maybe even some fish or something like that, then back to ribeyes, which is going to have obviously more calories, more fat. How do you manage the high days, or do they just eat what they feel like eating?
Give certain foods as an option, and it's really up to people what they choose. I give them different fattier cuts, leaner cuts. I give them a certain amount of fats, tablespoons of butter, ghee, or animal fat for the day. And high day, for example, might have 4 tablespoons of fat, where low days only has 1. And then on high days, you have 2 meals of 16 ounces of protein, where low days is only 1 meal of 13 ounces. Makes sense? So the cuts and the types of the meats are really up to the client's option. I try to keep it also a little flexible for people so it's easier for them. But I really manage the portions, so there are much smaller portions on the low days and much larger portions on the high days. When it comes to the high day and protein, as soon as you cross that 1 gram per pound, I don't really care about protein anymore. I really only care about protein when it's below 1 gram. I need to get you up that 1 gram per pound. But as soon as it's over 1.5, 2 grams, or 2 grams is very rare. I'm over exaggerating a bit. But if it's over 1 gram, I don't really care about protein much. Fats, and I just have to manage fats so you eat the proper amount of calories that I want you to eat for that day.
Do you ever have people that struggle, after they've been doing it for a while and they've done all these lighter days, these leaner days, and then on the high day, they just can't eat enough? Or they get I don't have the appetite. Does that ever happen?
Certainly. Usually when people begin, they tell me I can't eat that much. It's so much food. So, well, look at the situation. You're 280. Okay. You're a 280 man, and I give you 3,000 calories. That's nothing for a 280 man. You're a big man and you say you cannot eat that much. And then I give you 1 meal, because we do 1 meal on low calorie days, only 1 meal a day. And I give you 1,300 calories, and you tell me again, hey, I can't eat that much. What you're telling me is basically that you've been consuming foods in a smaller quantities, but larger on calories. So you've been consuming a lot of processed stuff that was in a really small materials and containing a lot of energy, because you are down 8 pounds in your first week. So obviously you've flushed a lot of water, you've flushed a lot of inflammation, you burned a little bit of body fat, your body likes it, and you've been stuffing yourself with a lot of food, and you're still dropping weight. So people do struggle for about first 2 to 3 weeks to consume all of that, and then the body adapts and everything is good. I hear that all the time. And I saw the question if the protocol changes for women. The concept is always the same. So for women, let's say if I have a woman for over 200 pounds, I might keep a woman over 200 pounds at about 2 grand, maybe 2,100 on a high day. Women below 200 now. These are rough estimates. I have my calculations of how I approach the situation. So this is not exact. But I could have women on high days at 1,700, 1,800 and low day 800, 900, which is very aggressive, but very quick results. And then I will get you back to a proper amount every single day while you're maintaining your new low body weight.
Yeah. Do you find that some of the things is because a lot of people will lose a lot of weight and then they put it back on, and it's just this yo-yo thing. Is there a period of time where if you maintain a newer, lower weight that it becomes a little less challenging? So you get down to your lowest weight and you maintain that plus a few pounds for 3 months, 6 months, then it becomes easier to maintain that. Or have you found that at all?
8 months.
8 months. Okay. So if you can
8 months is a time frame where I see it.
if you can maintain a weight for 8 months and because we talk about the set point of the body and your body defends this equilibrium or this homeostasis point, and some people, it's because eating in a deficit for long periods of time is very challenging for some people, for most people, in fact. And so the body's always wanting to fight and get back to whatever it perceives to be its normal weight, which it may take us a while to change that. There was a question that you might have saw. There was somebody asking about that you've seen your wife, and I think she looks quite lean. Or asking if she's using it. Is she an X3 bar user primarily as well, or does she do some other stuff?
She does other stuff too because she coaches women. She has a program that is meant for everybody. Like she designed this program for the people to train at home with their own body weight, and it's really on budget. So it's $9.99 a month where she coaches. And she coaches people with bodyweight exercises for the first 30 minutes, and they finish up with the X3 bar. That's her routine.
Okay, fair enough. You're obviously doing a lot of sort of weight loss, transformation, strength training. Do you see a lot of people that if somebody comes to you and they're overweight and they're on 6 medications, they're depressed, they're diabetic, maybe they have arthritis and they're on a bunch of meds for that. Obviously, you can't direct them to come off meds and stuff like that. You can't practice medicine without a license. But do you see incidentally as a side effect of this, a lot of people improving their overall health, getting off medications? Hopefully they go to their doctor and reduce their medications. Is that something you see pretty commonly?
Absolutely. So I can speak numbers because I take a look at the blood work like daily, about 2, maybe 3 blood works a day. So on average, we can drop A1C levels like 0.1 a week. So if I get a diabetic, let's say, for example, right now, I just had a consultation before this podcast with one of my clients who was a diabetic. He started at 7.7 A1C, and now, about 11 weeks in, he's at 6.6. So we're averaging his A1C to be down about 0.1 a week, which I think is incredible. His glucose drops significantly faster. When he used to wake up to higher glucose, 140, 150, now he's waking up to about 90, 88, 90. And honestly, there might be a lot of controversy with carnivore diet in the pharmaceutical world. Like some doctors will not support carnivore diet. They will tell you it's insane. But one thing I can tell you, when the diabetics come back with better glucose levels, with better triglycerides, with better A1C levels, with less inflammation, doctors are like, keep doing what you're doing. Like, okay, I understand. Just keep doing what you're doing because they don't see improvement. That's the problem. Doctors are not used to seeing improvements in people. So when I have my people who are telling me like, hey, my doctor is not really on board with the diet, which we already know. I always tell people up front, and people who are interested in carnivore or heard of carnivore, they already know the concept. They know it's different. They know it's not supported by the pharma world. And they understand that once when they go to their doctor, they will hear probably some controversy or something, that doctor will not agree with. But once when they come back 3-4 months later with 2 points lower A1C, with stable glucose, with lower inflammation, 40 pounds lighter, more muscle, they look in the face better, they feel better. The doctor just looks at the blood work and say, okay, just keep doing what you're doing. And I get most of the GPs on board with their patients after they see the results. Okay, it's probably not that bad.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point that you make, that most physicians rarely see significant improvements like this. Like the number of people that have seen a 500 pound person lose 200 plus 300 pounds is going to be pretty slim outside of aggressive surgeries and things like that. A lot of people will say, this diet is too expensive for me. And it sounds like if they're eating 1 meal a day and fasting, it's going to be probably cheaper for them. How do you talk to people about it? How do they afford this diet if this is expensive diet? Because I don't think it really is. But
I don't believe it is expensive because you will cut back on a lot of bad habits that you have right now. So if you look at your personal budget, Now you're used to eating. You're driving on a highway, you just take the first exit, you go to Olive Garden. The bill is $29 plus $6, $7, $8, $9 tip. And then you're close to $40 per meal. And then you don't think really that you spend that much because it's part of your daily routine. And then at home, you come at night, your wife is making some lasagna or something for the whole family. That's another $20, $25 on the table easily right there. So at the end of the day, as a household, you guys might be spending $100 a day without even knowing about it, like just for the normal regular food, because your wife is going to get her soy latte on her way to work as well for $7. So when you jump on carnivore and when you start consuming meats, nobody tells you to just consume the Wagyu steaks for highest price. You can just go to Costco. It's honestly that's where I buy my meat is Costco, and I get ground beef for $2.99. Sometimes a sale $3.99. I buy steaks for myself. I buy ribeyes for $10.99, or I buy New York strips for $9.99 a pound. And I think these are pretty reasonable prices considering I'm not going out to restaurants anymore to blow money on foods that I used to. I don't drink alcohol. And honestly, I asked my friend this question. Okay, he's from Eastern Europe, not making a lot of money. He has 4 kids, and I see him carrying packs of steaks home. I'm like, he's a friend of mine from childhood. I'm telling him, Michael, you can make this diet a lot cheaper. He's like, you know what? I'm saving money by not drinking, not taking drugs, and not smoking. I'm not saving money on food. I'm like, that's a pretty valid point. You said you save money by not killing yourself with the chemicals, and you're not going to save money on food. I think that was a very valid point.
Yeah, fair enough. That's true. Let me ask you, you said 2020 is when you've done it, so you've been 3 years seeing carnivore. Have you seen a greater interest in this? Do you see more and more people trying to reach out and say, hey, tell me about this carnivore thing? Because a lot of people say, oh, it's a fad diet, it's going to come and go, and in 3 years. I remember about 4 years ago, I remember a lot of because vegans are very critical of carnivore diets. We think we're unethical and so on and so forth. And they said, if we just ignore them and don't talk about them, it's going to go away. And I'm like, it hasn't gone away, and it's continuing to grow. Is that something do you feel like this is growing in interest in people that are doing this now?
It's insane. I'm talking insanity. Like this has taken traction so much that I don't remember any other eating way or any other diet taking off so quickly. Because now here's the thing: when keto started coming out in 2010, 2011, at first they started appearing in the magazines, everybody thought it's insane. Now by 2017, 18, keto was more established. Everybody understood. Everybody heard of it. So I think every diet, when it has its initial introduction to the market, people just ridicule and diss, and it's insane. It's going to kill people. But eventually, when that diet starts delivering such an amazing results, like Carnivore Diet does, it will get accepted. And if enough people heard of it, it will be accepted in the community. So I remember when you came out with carnivore, because you're really the first one who ever started doing this like on a big scale. There might be some people before who we never really heard of, but we heard of you. And I was watching how you started representing carnivore, and it was making sense for myself. And from 2016 to 220, it grew amazingly. But from 220 to 223, I can't keep up with the demand. Like people request carnivore diets from me. Before, 3 years ago, I used to tell people, hey, there's this diet that I use for my coaching program. I'd like to explain a little bit more so you don't think I'm nuts. And people will be like, okay, I never heard of it. Tell me. So I explain carnivore and they give it a shot. Now people request, hey, I want to join the program, but I don't want to do no carbs. I don't do well with carbs. I just want to go carnivore. And that's from about 2021, mid-2021, I started getting more and more of these requests. So there's just insane spike in the interest of carnivore diet. And what I truly believe is the real reason is because of the results.
Yeah.
I tried all diets in my life and none of them delivered what carnivore could, or I couldn't deliver it to people what I can deliver with carnivore.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think it's results speak louder than anything. And this is a thing. And I've been sitting here watching results for 6 or 7 years now. I've been pretty amazed by what I've seen, not just from body transformation and weight loss, but from just all kinds of health issues resolving. A lot of people that still follow the typical bodybuilding diet, one of the things is they'll load up on protein, which arguably is a good thing, particularly if your goal is to maintain lean mass or put on lean mass. And then they'll often fill up on fiber, fibers, vegetables. This is a thing that fills you up so your appetite is supposedly sated. And do you find that without the vegetables and the fibers, vegetables, because obviously carnivore doesn't really have that in there, do people struggle with satiety? Do they find the satiety is enough?
I prefer fat adaptation over fiber. Fat adaptation means that your body is very adapted to consuming fat as its energy, and it's using primarily ketones for its energy. So once when you run out of energy from the food, the body will just simply eat the fat that's around your stomach, that's stored in the body. And fat adaptation is a lot better for the satiety. And I think there is a lot better. I think I have a lot better results using fat adaptation in my diet to calm this satiety. How do you say it? How do you say that word?
Satiety? What was the word you're looking for?
Satiety. Yeah, my bad. So, yeah, I find fat adaptation to be much more efficient in satiety than fiber. Now, mentioning fiber, I come from the bodybuilding background, as I mentioned. I've tried all the bodybuilding protocols before. The worst digestion of my life was when I was consuming a lot of fiber. I am not good friends with fiber. I cannot digest fiber. I get bloated. I look like 9 months pregnant. I go to restroom. I have urge to go to restroom every 3 hours and nothing happens. That's how bloated I am. It is basically, that was the reason why I was looking for a better way, is because when I was consuming that much fiber, I have so much digestive issues that my entire health went downhill. And I would be training my clients at the gym, and I had to go down in a squat position and just be curled down in a ball while training my clients on the machines because I couldn't stand tall. I had such a digestive discomfort and bloat and aches in my stomach that I couldn't stand tall comfortably. So I would always have to squat down to the machines and talk to my clients, and I would try to pretend nothing is happening, even though I was suffering. Then I had to go to the restroom right away after the session. Nothing happened. I'm like, what is happening to me? And nobody could have explained why am I having digestive issues. Coaches and trainers were telling me like, yeah, you probably need more fiber. I'm like, it's like only nutrient I almost eat. Like I eat so much fiber, it's crazy. So nobody really knew what's going on. So that's when I started looking into carnivore. That was the initial reason.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that have gotten lean and contest ready on like the standard bodybuilding diet, the chicken, rice, and broccoli diet or whatever. What are some of the problems that you've seen with that? Even though people look amazing, they look, obviously when you're contest ready, you're on the verge of death, basically, in a lot of cases. It's not a physiologically sustainable place to be. Obviously there's a lot of drugs that go into that for many cases as well. But having been in this bodybuilding training world for a long period of time and dealt with people going through this, what are some of the issues that they have despite being super fit appearing based on the standard bodybuilding diet?
Honestly, binge eating. A lot of binging. They don't have very good fat adaptation because they consume carbohydrates in small amounts very frequently. Every 2 hours, every 3 hours, there's some carbohydrate coming in. So you're starving. You're essentially starving. You're running glucose metabolism with not sufficient amount of glucose. That's very aggressive. Because I'm running low calories. Yes, I do. But my body can consume its own fat and stay calm. But when you're consuming glucose and you don't give yourself enough glucose, the hunger is ridiculous. So I see that further in the diet people get and closer to the show people get, the hungrier and more crazy about food they get. And all they talk about is, oh, I can't wait for my cheat meal on Sunday. And they just blow up on Sunday with cakes and burgers and fries. And it's just so much food that they gain 9-11 pounds a day of inflammation and bloat. So I would say binging is a really big problem because of the protocols they follow or this system represents. But of course, they can get in a great shape. There's plenty of ways of how you can get in a great shape, but I see more binge issues with this way of eating than any other way of eating.
Yeah. You get a lot of people that are used to consuming a lot of calories. If you're walking around at 250 pounds, relatively lean like a professional bodybuilder, their normal caloric requirement is quite high. And then going to a pretty restricted, got to be a little challenging. You mentioned you had the one gal that's 500 plus pounds. What is a typical, who are the typical people you're seeing? How much weight do they have to lose? Age, sex, male, female, what are you typically seeing?
I have clients both male and female. Usually, okay, so majority of the people will be middle-aged. I think there is some mental aspect of a middle age where you start thinking a little bit more health. You start thinking, okay, I need to start taking care of myself. The youth craziness that you've done is gone now. You start being a little bit more mature, and people start thinking, okay, I have to be here for my kids. Usually their kids are 5, 7 years old, and they start looking at them and they're like, oh, I don't want to have any health complications. So I want to be here for my kids as long as possible. So they start seeking help and health improvements. But I would say people mid-age, usually people are about it could be anywhere from 25 to 150 pounds overweight, anywhere, or even as little as 10, as from 10 pounds to 150 pounds overweight. I deal with all of those cases, all ages. I just signed up a 70-year-old client yesterday for my coaching program. I had an 80-year-old client. I had a 75-year-old client as well, who was very successful at burning fat and also getting stronger. They also put on muscle, believe it or not. Then I have the younger clients who are in their 20s. The majority of the people will be middle-aged. Then more people would be from middle-age up, and less people would be from middle-age down. And at the very high age, 70 and 80, that would be minority. And most of the people will need to lose 30 to 50 pounds, majority, and minority would be 10 to 30 and 50 to 150.
Okay, so it's in that 30, 50 pound range. Is there a different, if somebody starts and they're way overweight, 100 pounds overweight, is there a different starting point with a number of high, low days versus somebody says, hey, I just want to lose 10 pounds. I got 10 pounds to lose. That seems like it's a harder 10 pounds than the first 10 pounds of 100 pounds. First 10 pounds of 100 pounds is water the first couple of days, and then it comes off pretty quickly. But then you get into that guys with their stubborn lower abdominal fat, the love handles and stuff like that. How do you treat those people differently? Somebody who's really overweight and somebody who just has to lose 5, 10 pounds.
It's the numbers of calories. If somebody is really overweight, high days will be higher in calories, low days will be higher in calories. Somebody is just tiny bit overweight, there won't be even much of a deficit. Like honestly, if you got 10 pounds to lose, we're done in super quick. It's done. It's usually those people will try to tighten up. I tell them like, hey, your body weight is not an issue. Let's say you're a female and you're 135 and you just don't like those extra 10 pounds on you because you believe, or you were in 125, even more common. You used to live at 125. You were so lean and happy. You got up to 135. You want to get back down. Okay, we get you down to 125 in a heartbeat. What do we do with the rest of the time in the coaching program? We tighten you up. We'll build more muscle. So that's what we focus on. We'll get rid of those 10 pounds very quickly. Their calories will be, of course, lower than a 300-pound man. The low and high days both will be lower. And then we'll start switching up the calories and the protocols to more muscle building. Whereas as a man, he will just, the bigger, larger man is going to consume more calories on high and low days.
Daniel, unfortunately, we're running out of time. This has been really interesting and fascinating. Thanks for what you're doing, by the way. Help validating some of the things that we've talked about or I've talked about for years now. People are going to be interested in finding out if they want to sign up for your coaching program or maybe your wife's coaching program. Share any social media, how to contact you, so on and so forth.
So my social media platform is on Instagram, DM_trainer. So DM_trainer is my Instagram, and I'd like you to visit that page just for the sake of results. I post before and after pictures of the clients that I train who are using Carnivore Diet and Fast and X3. I think you guys can really look at the Carnivore Diet results on my page because I really try to produce as many as possible. My website is www.bmprotrainer.com. And my wife's website, that is in Slovakian language though, even though she has American clients in her group as well, because you don't really need to understand what she's saying as long as you just follow what she's showing on the video. If you're doing shoulder presses, you just do shoulder presses. It doesn't matter if it's Slovakian and English, but she'll be explaining something in the Slovakian language. But that's AndreaTrainer.com. So it's again, AndreaTrainer.com. It's her website. It's $9.99 a month, and you get 20 trainings a month, Monday through Friday.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Daniel. Good luck to you. And what part of the world are you in again? I can't remember where you live.
Slovakia, Eastern Europe.
Oh, you're in Slovakia now?
No, I'm in Las Vegas right now.
Okay.
But I'm from there.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much. The rest of the folks, thanks for being here. We'll be back again tomorrow for kind of an open session, no guests, so we just answer questions. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye, guys. Take care.